host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And as always, we like to say good morning on the Morning Vibe. He's here. Ryan Knight is here, but he has to unmute himself. But Ryan Knight is here. We got him.
Hey,
What's
good
going
to
on?
day, good day. No, things are really good. Good to see you. For those that don't know who Ryan Knight is or may not have seen me before, if this is your first time tuning in, it's our pleasure to have you. And I am one of the co-founders of the Afro Caribbean Business
You always
Network.
like sticking out your chest, eh?
I haven't figured out the right camera angle just yet, but yes,
There you go.
we work with entrepreneurs of African and Caribbean heritage, really to figure out what stage their business is in. Uh, Also, I'm an entrepreneur running the company called Detailing Nights. We provide mobile waterless car cleaning. So go to people's houses or their offices, clean their cars on the spot without water and our eco-friendly cleaning supplies. And again, the summer season's coming to a close, but fall is still prime to get your car cleaned. So we're still in full swing.
All right. So, those who know a little bit about the members of the family, you know it's Monday, so you know what we do on Mondays. This is what we do on Mondays. This episode of the Morning Vibe is brought to you by the Macmillan Group, providing mortgage solutions one client at a time since 1999. Buying, refinancing, or investing, you can contact the Macmillan Group. The number's there, Canada 905-813-4354, US 904-586-5636. And that is our wonderful Monday sponsor, the Macmillan Group. And also, we'd like to just put here, there's the full regalia, Canada number, US number, toll-free North American number. Also, website address, the McMillanGroupInc.com, and email address, raycmcmillan@gmail.com. Probably all the ways are good. I was going to say all the ways are good. They're all good. They're all good. So we are here. We are supposed to have a scheduled guest. He's having some technical challenges at the moment, but we're speaking that he is going to make it happen. So hold tight. Hopefully he'll make it. A few other house duties. Make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Subscribe and hit the notification button. It helps with that thing they call the algorithm. And you want to also subscribe on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Also, if you want to advertise your business and or service on this platform or the other two other platforms I host on, four other platforms that I host and produce, please email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, join the Morning Vibe Discord group, please. Yeah, and that's our little private chat area, so you can keep the conversation going outside of the live video conversations. So email me again, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And then finally, coming up on this Friday's show, yes, this Friday is the first Friday of a new month, September. Wayne Harris will be back for Financial First Fridays, and we know everybody loves Wayne and Financial First Fridays. So lock it down on your calendar, tell everybody about it, and let's make it happen. So before we go any further, let's see who's in the family this morning. Oh, look who we have here this morning, Aisha K. Staggers. So, I like to do the promo when I can. For those who don't know, Aisha, Jill Jones, and Laura Lala Key are right now I'm gonna have to check the longest running conversation on my platform. I'm pretty sure they are now with State of Things with Aisha, Jill, and Lala. They are on 9 p.m. on Saturdays. And 95% of the time it's live. This weekend we took a little bit of a break, but they discuss everything, especially what's going on U.S. social and political wise, and sometimes global stuff too. So thank you, Aisha K. Staggers. And unfortunately, one of the trio, Jill Jones, she broke her foot.
Ooh.
And the funny thing is that she was walking around on her foot, her right foot, I think it was her right foot, for a few weeks, and she didn't feel right. And I think she went to her doctor, went to another doctor, or one of her doctors said, your foot's broken.
Oh, wow.
So one of her doctors said, nothing's wrong. And and you know what? So Aisha's right on it. The first time I had Aisha on this platform was in 2017.
Whoa, love that.
So we're going on pretty much consistently 6 years. First, I had Aisha on, and then Aisha, who is, I'm going to say it, and Aisha, don't push me back if I'm wrong here. She's a Prince authority, the artist Prince authority. She's spoken at conferences, written articles. She has a long music journey herself, especially about writing about it. And then she told me, I think she befriended Jill Jones. Now, Jill Jones was a member of Prince's entourage for 10 years, like side by side. And the people know the movie Purple Rain.
Mm-hmm.
She had a part in Purple Rain,
the
movie. So they befriended each other. And I believe you just said, you should interview Jill. And I said, I'd love to interview Jill. Jill came on, had a great time. I said, you know what? These two are real high intensity Black women. Want to bring them together. And I didn't know what would happen. Look what's happened. And then Lala, who I think is a friend of Jill's, Jill said, you know what? We should bring Lala on. And one of the reasons why, so this is a little tip for people when it comes to hosting and producing shows. At first we just had Aisha and Jill. Now, what happens if one of them wanted to take a break? Unfortunately, one of them got sick or something came up. To have just one of them on, but having Lala come in made 3. So if one needed to take a break, we'd still have 2 individuals on there. So that's one of the reasons why that conversation is going long and strong. And one day, maybe with the next internet has can you count how many conversations the State of Things has done? Because it's been a minute. It's been a minute. So Aisha and her wonderful daughter, who's doing well at school, fantastic. And Aisha knows she's overcoming a little bit of a health challenge. I'm speaking, we're doing okay. So just a little bit of story. And Fitness IQ Cam goes, oh yes, 2017, longevity. Our guest, unfortunately, our guest, he's in the green room. You got to connect your camera, man. Unless you connect your camera and especially even your microphone, we can't get you on. So see what you're doing and maybe connect. As I said, you're able to connect with me in the back room, and I'll actually put a note there and see if it works. But a little bit of filling up there. So I want to say hello to some other people. The McMillan Group says yes, and they do have amazing conversations. Congrats on the longevity. So there you go, Aisha. So you can tell Jill and Lala, Ray McMillan of the McMillan Group enjoys his conversations, even to the fact that I've been to Ray's office in Mississauga twice. And believe it or not, in his main boardroom, there's a big, large screen on the wall. Guess what's playing in rotation? All of these conversations. So I can't get better support than that. Like the first time I went there, that's me up on a screen. That's Jill. That's Aisha up on the screen. So big ups to Ray, Stefan, and the rest of the family, and all the great things the McMillan Group are doing.
And for those that don't know, what would be a rundown of the different conversations that you do have on a regular basis?
Well, obviously, the former president is a hot topic with the 3 ladies. Also, I do want to make a point too that if you're watching the live portion, the language can get quite tasty at times, especially from Miss Jones. So I would say it's adult content at times. So, but we talk everything about, especially things going on from a Black lens in America. So everything from what's going on with 45, what's going on in American politics, upcoming elections, see our critical race theory, the whole thing about how history is taught and not being taught in America. So they cover it all, and I just steer the ship. So nice. Fitness IQ goes LOL indeed. She comes in it periodically. Aisha says nice that Ray go in there, and it's just playing continuously. So can't get any more better support than that.
That's so
So
good.
yeah,
And
so we
then
covered
that one since 2017. So what other shows have you been hosting?
oh gosh. Well, the Dr. Vibe show was always the first thing out.
Mhm.
And then for a while we did I host and produced a show called Dr. Vibes Allies. So this is
Okay,
another
right. That's the one
thing.
that you just recently brought back?
That's the one that's recently brought back. What I did way back, and because I am not the person that wants to be the spotlight, right? I just want to steer the ship. I want to shine the light on other people, and I reached out to different individuals, black male individuals. Uh, I think first was a gentleman named Victory Unlimited in Tennessee. Also reached out to Jonathan Juiceman Shaw here in the Brampton area, Greater Toronto area. Also, there was a gentleman named Style Gent who's no longer part of it. Also, Mike Ramey, who is a Black American Republican, and also Henri Morris, who was at that time a hairstylist, who's now into the moving the financial or legal industry, who's out in San Francisco, Antioch area, and then also Clive Henry from Nottingham, England, who wrote a book many years ago called Racism is Real. And actually, the first one I actually brought on probably was Clive Henry, because at the time, this is going way back, he had over 10,000 social media followers.
You said a gentleman has been on that's a Black Republican. Did you see that interview with Charlemagne and the gentleman in the U.S. that's running
Larry Elder?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I saw it, and I saw some commentary on it. Oh, that was pretty intense. But you know what? He put Charlemagne a little bit in his place.
So that's like I would say the main takeaway is, him having, I would say, his stats and his talking points really in order and not taking the bait for. I found a few of the questions that they were asking were somewhat off topic. They didn't seem in line with what you would ask a presidential candidate, especially when it was talking about like the nigger wake up call. I was like,
yeah,
I felt a bit out of bounds. I don't know.
No, Larry Elder schooled him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
He really schooled him that, saying like that at that time the president or presidential candidate Biden treated him like, and he didn't push back on him.
Right. Yes.
So I heard a snippet of the interview. Actually, Ray saying Dr. Vibe Allies is another great show. I've watched a few episodes, have to catch up on previous episodes. Thank you, Ray. Actually, Ray, if you're ever interested, I'd love you to be part of that if you'd like to.
Nice.
So
nice.
I'm putting the invitation out to black men hey, we'd love more black men on to talk about it. It's a monthly conversation. The next one's coming up this Thursday, where they just talk about a subject, or they just bring up things in real time and they just chat about it. So it's probably one of the few online live conversations in the world where we have black men from 3 different countries and 2 different continents. So Jonathan Shaw, Brampton, Canada, Henri Morris and Victory Unlimited, and Mike Ramey, America, Clive Henry, England. So when we start the show, it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in England for Clive. Clive has made it for every conversation.
Yes.
Everyone, he's made it. Everyone. So good comment here. I don't think the Breakfast Club has the capacity to interview certain types of guests, and Larry Elder's conversation proved that. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I raise up on these things. Yeah, Larry Elder schooled Charlemagne the God. Ray says, thanks. I love the opportunity. I may channel my Larry Elder, so I hope the audience is prepared. Just saying. Okay, so Ray, I'm going to put it out there. Are you available this Thursday evening at 9 p.m.? If you are,
right,
we'll bring it. So certainly tell me if that's going to happen. But yeah.
Well, and that's where it was unfortunate to see that Larry Elder didn't make it to the debate, because that Republican nomination debate was, again, interesting in its own right, where those conversations started going. But
Good morning to Kinte Ferguson. Have not seen or heard from you in a long, long time. We met each other through a platform called Blab many years ago. And Kinte, the other day, I was
Nice.
speaking with L.A. Wade, and he was mentioning, you were mentioning our conversation. Charlemagne has been a problem since he won. He was an intern on South Carolina radio. Aisha has, and that's one thing about Aisha, she has a good history in American politics, so she can give you a lot of deep info on that. So she knows a lot about the Charlemagne the God man. You know, I didn't realize, I did a little research. He's been around for a minute.
Okay, yeah,
he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Like going back, he's been around for a long while. So yeah, so it's just interesting. I think, yeah, there's certain people like the Larry Elder. And actually, I heard another interesting interview. Larry Elder was on Tavis Smiley the other day. Oh, wow.
Oh, yo, send me that clip. I didn't see that
one. Basically, and I maybe misquote, but Tavis Smiley asked Larry Elder, basically, did he feel that the former president of the United States has done nothing wrong? And Larry Elder said, yeah, he hasn't done anything wrong.
Yes. And he did mention that in the Breakfast Club interview too. And that's where I was, he was very on point with his facts and his position, but that stance, I feel like he's trying to cater to that base to say like, hey, I'm not fully against Trump, so I'm not gonna bad talk anything that he's done, while still, yeah, it's a weird balancing act that I'm seeing Republicans starting to play. Where
they realize that they, whether they like it or not, 45 is gonna, he's the front runner, and remember, 45's core is non-melanated white people. so and a lot of them may not think much of melanated people like us, right? So how do you appeal to that?
Well, and that's where, if you don't feel like he's done anything wrong, why not just join his camp and support his campaign?
Yeah, that's what you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not buying that part.
And speaking of interesting things that are going on, today is the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington.
Okay.
The famous "I Have a Dream" speech.
Right.
60 years today, and has much really changed in America. Again, I was listening to Tavis Smiley's show the other day, and people say, why do you listen to Tavis Smiley? Tavis Smiley was my main influence starting what I'm doing today.
Yes.
He was, and I've shared this once in a while, many years ago. He came to Toronto, and actually it was an event put on by Nanika Elliott. She had something a long time ago, and he came in, he passed by and say, hey, pleasure to meet you. And then I got about 7 to 8 minutes with him. And the bottom line, told him what I did. And he says, just keep on going. Don't quit. And that's what I've done. I just kept on going and not quit. But there was a gentleman from an organization saying, basically, if you look statistically, Black Americans haven't really moved that far ahead since 1963.
Well, and that's where it's tough when we get motivational speeches and it all sounds great, but when we don't have metrics to measure it by. So what was the thing that we were trying to accomplish when that speech was made? And then now today, what would, like you said, how has it moved the needle? If you ask me today, what are we measuring? I really wouldn't know. Is it just everything to do with the Black community, period? Or is it very specific about economics? Is it very specific about social? Because people will push back and say that the social lens has gotten better. Like if we look at 60 years ago, how I would say Blacks were blatantly treated, and today it's not the same. So we can't say that nothing has happened. And now, is it where we want it to be is a different question.
So this is the question. Well, even up to yesterday, there was a shooting of 3 Black individuals in Florida by a white gentleman. He had then committed suicide, and they looked at his social media. There was blatant anti-racist stuff.
Right.
in his content online. So my question is, what? And this is a question to the family here. What is the message? How do you measure Black progress? What are the things we
Right.
use to measure Black progress? Like, we had our George Floyd moment.
But
Where does
those,
that
right,
stand
those
right now?
moments have been happening since the
Yeah.
60s.
Well,
So
they happen all the time. We only hear
right,
about a few of them, right?
absolutely.
Right. The more One of the things I would say is the more I know, the less I understand. But one thing I've come to understand for myself, we live in I can only speak for North America. We live in a capitalistic democracy.
Right.
Capitalistic democracy. Notice I put capitalistic first,
Right.
then
Yes.
democracy. So to me, we as a people have to make economic progress.
Mhm.
And also we have to find that, hey, if we're not fitting in the system, we got to create our own system.
There at least needs to be something parallel that can represent us against the current system. Because right now, a lot of and again, even back then, the initial push was to integrate into the current system. And then I would say 60 years later, we've seen that hasn't really benefited the Black community in an economic empowerment way. But now, if there's an additional system that actually can counteract what we're facing, then I feel like we have more leverage. But right now, we're just beholden, hey, whether it's the grants that we're always asking for, whether it's jobs that we're always asking for,
Asking for.
it's from a position of um I would say weakness, like that. There's no leverage there. So if you're not on the same playing field and having a business that is hiring our own, or hey, maybe a government entity that supports the community and can talk to the current government on our behalf, these are things that we've never really entertained because we're always just trying to integrate into the current system.
Okay, now our guest looks like he may be able to come on. The thing is, I'm saying he's not gonna have his full time. We're gonna see if we can bring him on.
All right.
Okay, we can bring him on, but we don't see him. Tamari, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I can see you.
Your it's your camera. Do you have it's
Yeah,
a
we can hear
camera?
you.
We can hear you.
Okay, it
Okay, so if you go to the bottom of your screen,
yes.
do you see settings?
Yes.
Click on that,
Yes.
and it defaults to camera.
Yes.
Okay, if you look, there should be a box underneath your black screen saying camera. Does it give, if you click on the drop down, does it give you any options?
No, it's simply integrated webcam.
So that's difficulty. For some reason, your webcam. And so if you click on it and click on webcam, nothing comes up.
No. It's
Okay,
just it's a default setting.
And
Underneath that it says mirror my camera.
No, don't. That has nothing to do. That's a feature. It's not picking up your camera for some strange reason. Okay.
Gotcha. It'll be like we're interviewing, like, remember Hard Edition, where they don't want to give up their identity, but
Okay. Okay. This is what I'm going to suggest tomorrow. I want us to reschedule because you only have a limited. We wanted to have you on a number of minutes ago, and B, I want to work with you offline to have a visual of you.
Okay.
So is that okay with you? So we can reschedule, and I'll give you a call after our conversation today, and I'm gonna be your contract IT director.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. Sorry about this.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's okay. We just want to perhaps make you have the best presentation of yourself. So expect a call from me between 10 and 11. Are you available 10 to 11 today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you'll hear back from me then, all right?
Great. Thank you.
No problem. Take care. yeah, I want to just give him the best presentation of himself. Like, I know he's black, but we don't have to see him black. All right.
All right.
So we've got some comment. Oh, who's here? Divine Right from the DMV. Yes, happy Monday,
Yes.
everyone. So Aisha says our measurements of progress are different than the measurements of progress white people attribute to us. Aisha, we need what Akaki, Aisha, do you have time to come on a morning vibe one of these days? No, I'm being serious.
Hey, absolutely.
So Aisha, I'd love you to come on. You know what? Okay. See, everyone knows when I do that, my mind is like flying right here. But Aisha, we're gonna talk offline because I'd like you to come on at least in the next week or two to just chat and maybe even periodically give the slant of what's going on in America from Black America lens. So I'm throwing that out there, Aisha. All right. Aisha goes, thank you for the platform. Aldefina goes, greetings, everyone. Would it help if those upper income, like athletes, entertainers, and wealthy, more financially involved in the process integrating? I believe so.
But
I believe so.
You're asking more involved in the process of integrating, like integrating into what? Like, are we talking about athletes helping Black people get jobs in current in the current ecosystem? That to me isn't a good use of time. If we're talking about all the wealthy Black people in, let's say, in the US and Canada coming together to create an alternative, what businesses are these athletes creating that can now create jobs for people in the community? Like, athletes and entertainers are such strong job creators, but they're only one piece of the puzzle. Like, they need to create that vertical integration.
And let's make it real here that athletes and entertainers, most of them don't have their own platform. There's someone calling the shots.
Part of
right. That someone's calling the shots. There are very few melanated individuals that have their own platform who call their own shots. Because at the end of the day, we'll use example. BET is not melanated owned, right? So the end product is what, but the people signing off on it at the end of the day, you know. So Aisha says yes. So Aisha, I'm going to reach out to you via Discord today to see when you can come on. And you know what? Maybe once a month, if you have time, have you come on and talk about what's going on in States, or maybe there's I got a lot of things rolling on, but this. So get ready for Aisha, folks. Get ready for Aisha. Get ready. Right. She goes, amen, Ryan. These celebrities have wealth, but little political power.
What's interesting to me too is, when do we get to talk to athletes or entertainers? It seems once they reach a certain level, they get disconnected from any input. Yes, we can put things online and say like, oh, they should be doing X, Y, Z. But as an athlete first gets into, let's say, the NFL, or first gets through Division I football, all those touch points along the way, where is the Black community to sit them down and talk about what could be done with the current? And even we've seen a lot of athletes just go broke after their career,
you know,
because there's no conversation about planning.
This is the wonderful thing about our family. We can just put the appetizer and they get into the main course. So I love how our family is driving the ship. Okay, I just had another crazy idea. Tamari, even though we can't see you, would you like to come back and join in this conversation? Even though we can't, because I know that you have a lot. So if you can put in the private chat, if you just want to come on and join our conversation and add your perspective, I'd really appreciate that.
Be great.
I would. So so please comment. You know, if you're, I'm just gonna put. Do you want to? Yeah, so tomorrow I still see that you're there. Can you put in the chat if you want to come in? Because I'd really love your perspectives. Yeah, we can't see you. I'm here to offer. Okay, if I have the competence, don't say you have the competence. You got the competence. Tamari, don't even sell yourself. Tamari, what are you saying about that? Tamari, are you there?
Well, the opinions and competence are two different things.
You
All right. We
Respect.
will not hold it against you.
We respect. All right. So, and just a little back on Tamari. Actually, let him Tamari, just introduce yourself, and then we'll continue on with the conversation.
Well, thanks for inviting me in. My name is
Absolutely, man. I have much respect and love for you. So anytime, especially from a black male lens perspective, you're in.
Tamari. Thank you. I'm professor of sociology at Brock University in St. Catharines, Ontario, which is in Canada. And I've been at Brock University since 2006.
See that? Okay.
Excellent.
You
Yes,
see
yes.
that? You see that? Okay. So, what do you think about the conversation we're having right now? What sort of initial comments do you have?
I think Ryan is offering some interesting perspective here in that the higher one climbs, there is more distance from one's background, and I think that's somewhat natural because the question of trust and confidence in terms of who's around you, your circle has to get smaller, and I think it's inevitable. But I think that we should think about some of the athletes that. Aiton Thomas and others that
Yes.
have kept that stream going, but they have a particular ideology and perspective, which I don't think we can ask of everyone. We can take them from the perspective of what they bring from their ideology, and Aiton Thomas is just one of those.
Yes.
Okay,
And here your family, and here he says, I don't know if I have the competency.
Right.
What's he talking about? Come on, man. Come
Well,
on, black
so
man.
I guess the question that is percolating in my mind, I'd love to get your thoughts, Tamar, is what could we do better as entertainers are going through the process of climbing the ranks, athletes are going through the process of climbing the ranks, to be more engaged and involved earlier, to say that the distance, like we're more purposeful about keeping the distance tighter instead of just letting the system take them as they will. And we've seen where that's gotten us, where we don't own any of the rights or the wealth that they create. We're just spectators.
Well, I think you ask an important question, which is what do we do sooner? I have a question about the we, but I can say that I think parents have a tremendous responsibility, and it starts that early, right? Because if parents know that they have a child who's very competent athletically, then I think it's important for the parents to ensure that the headspace of their children going into college and university, that they are a constant presence in their lives and that they can help to give them direction.
Love it. Okay, I'm just going to put a break on because the comments are coming in fast and furious, and I don't like them to lag for a long period of time. So Anthony Mitchell goes, yes, black people, etc. Yes, creating jobs or simply investing where necessary. Ray McMillan, first we need to get proper data on the economic contribution. I possibly think each athlete has 10 to 20 employees, which is more than most small businesses. Andy says, I would love that, Dr. Vibe. I don't know exactly what you commented to, so if you can give a little more.
And just to pause on what Ray was saying, people need to really absorb that comment, because we don't realize the economic ripple effect that we have. When you look at an entertainer or an athlete, the amount of jobs that are created because of, let's say, football, or because of even the economic impact a star athlete has. And you're seeing more athletes now tap into that power. And for example, Lionel Messi, he signed a deal, but he also gets a piece of the either the sales or the ownership.
Yeah, someone told me there's a gentleman who works at a supermarket really close to me, and we know each other for years. And he has this TFC season tickets. He told me Messi, every appearance he makes, he gets a portion of the gate. Every place he plays, that's unheard of.
Unprecedented things. Like when you show the economic value of that, But these are conversations that athletes could have been having from time. When we look at, I was watching the Air movie on Netflix about Michael Jordan and the process to sign him to Nike, being able to negotiate a piece of the sale or a piece of the, not the royalties, but like a percentage of sales from the shoe division, completely shifted the wealth of the Jordan family. But that's something that we never really, we could have been more purposeful from the beginning, because all athletes have that type. Well, I mean, not all athletes have that star power, but there's more conversation about the ownership of the system.
So this is morphing into a huge conversation. Let me just let's catch up a little bit more. Let's see. And Aisha says, Colin Kaepernick is a perfect example of what happens when Black athletes and celebrities do stand up.
And so that's, oh, sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Let me run through and you can catch up. Reason, Ryan, is that they have little control of their source of revenue. Moving the money from sports to other sectors is what will facilitate real change and economic growth. Thank you for the nice word, Anthony Mitchell, saying, I appreciate your show. Keep giving positive value. Yes, I would say positive. We give, Aisha says, right, Macmillan Group. And even when they have money, they lack ownership, which is the piece that builds generational and community wealth. Anthony says, platforms like ours help so many ways. Aldafina, job creation definitely needs to be our focus across all industries. We are more likely to hire and develop ourselves and our youth. It is not sustainable to rely solely on others for jobs and education. See, we got some serious heavy hitters here this morning. We need stronger foundations and institutions from home, work, school, community, etc. Ray also says, and they possibly higher paying jobs in the, quote, mainstream employment, unquote. So it is important to get the data to properly analyze. And then Aldafina says, a more connected and dynamic relationship between various institutions can also facilitate the sharing of resources and space. So I just wanted to catch up with all the comments, gentlemen. I think Ryan, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, Tamari put in the chat if you saw his thoughts.
He put in the he said the private. He put in the private chat. Ryan, know your point on Michael Jordan centers on his father, and particularly, and mother in general as the rock of the family. Also, keep in mind, small businesses represent some 75 to 80% of job creation.
And Tamari, that part of the movie where Michael Jordan's mother is negotiating with Nike, I was an emotional wreck. And I don't know why it was so impactful to hear that negotiation going back and forth. And exactly like you're saying, the parents played such a strong role in making sure that happened. And what I was actually hoping to see was more of the behind the scenes with what made them understand that they could have those negotiation, like have that type of negotiation. I don't know if she was like a businesswoman or had side counsel, but just to understand that you can negotiate and have leverage, because just a lot of parents don't know that, or a lot of parents aren't involved in the athlete's life. So now, just like, how do we do that purposefully? How do we take parents and say like, hey, your child is a potential star, or even just to make it to the league? These are things that you can now do economically beyond just them getting a salary. That, I was like a standing ovation for that part of the movie. And it was just, it touched me, because more of those conversations should be happening.
By the way, Tamari, go good, because I was going to say, Tamari, you can speak what you said in the private chat. So go for it, Tamari.
Well, I think one of the things that Ryan is pointing out is that Michael Jordan's parents knew value. These were sharecroppers. And if sharecroppers know anything, it's value, in that they were screwed out of their land and their wealth. So these are not ignorant people. They have a very organic sense of their value and their worth. And when you watch that documentary, what comes through very clearly is this family had values. right? And so they know their worth. One of the things that we should be mindful of is that when we are having our children play sports, it's excellent for them mentally, psychologically, physically, learning how to work in a team environment, learning how to respect authority. But we should also be mindful wherever we are that very often there's a sort of antagonism or can arise between coaches and fathers. And in my experience, me being my son's father, particularly white male coaches, made it a point to try to break him. So parents need to be very clear at the lowest level of social interaction with coaches that they need to orient their children to coaches in a particular sport where that coach is not going to try to supplant the black father, is going to be a partner to the black father, not supplant that black father. And I've seen that time and again with white coaches. I'm not saying it's exclusive to them, but it is a problem. And that when we think about our children as having value, then we will not turn them over to coaches. Coaches are our partners.
Right.
So everybody, aren't you happy I brought him on, even though his camera isn't on? Like I'm telling you, I know, and the phone, I know his book publishing company's going, they'll probably watch the first news. Oh, he didn't make it on. I'm gonna tell them he did come on. All right, he did come on. You watched the whole thing. Tamari, I'm gonna ask you. I'm not thinking about you coming on one. I'm speaking that if you have time in your journey, we need you to have you come on periodically if you're up to it.
Look, man, Greer and Cobbs in Black Rage said that the role and function of the black intellectual is to keep their head down, perform their task, put their sword to the white man when it comes to it, and when the community asks, step forward when they ask. I've been asked, and I'm answering.
I am, man. I got my hair just stood up on my arms on that.
Yes,
because I love these conversations. Because we're family. You're so best. You're gonna get Tamari on a somewhat regular basis. You're gonna get Aisha Staggers on a somewhat regular basis. I'm telling you, this is a beautiful thing. Let me just let's continue on. It's okay. Okay, so let's go here. Lorraine. Hello, Lorraine. How's your golf game? Let's see what Jaylen Brown's future looks like. So people don't know, Jaylen Brown just signed, he's a member of the Boston Celtics, just signed a humongous contract with the Celtics. And he is saying that he wants in Boston to create a Black Wall Street. How many athletes do you hear say that when they sign a new contract? We'll see.
I'm also curious how many of the athletes reached out to him after he said that.
Good question.
Because he is in position now to curate and bring together, I would say, the most amount of athletes around this type of community economic building. He should not be running that type of project on his own. Collectively, there are billions upon billions of dollars circulating throughout the league. If athletes haven't reached out to him and said, hey, how can we help? Or if he's not purposely bringing them together, I think we're losing the leverage of what he's actually talking about.
Okay, let's continue on from Golf Central. Lorraine says we now have athletes that are scholars. Yes. Hayden Morrison. Good morning, Hayden. Good morning. He says this conversation should definitely include the Williams sisters. And for those who may not know, Serena had her second baby just recently.
Okay.
Charmaine says, Ms. Hussey. Yes. Great conversation. Knowing your worth is important because once you know your skill set, you know the value you bring to the table. Facts. Ray says, great point, Professor Katosa. In many cases, there is an adversarial dynamic between father, black, and coaches in many cases. That's never been brought up. I love that point, Doctor.
I hadn't even processed that dynamic.
Let's see. Aisha says competitive sports has caught on. These people who are the top 1% and don't look like us are refusing to sign athletes because they are represented by the top 1% of managers, also not like us. Okay, Divine Right, agreed. My son is a swimmer. There was a swim coach and was a swim coach and was a problem. claimed to be inclusive of children with ADHD, ADD, etc., but said openly in front of me of parents that he was difficult. Okay.
You see that?
Another thing here, that response is profound. Professor Kotosa, yeah, that's the one that made my we have called you we need your intellect and insight. Yes, absolutely. She said a couple of other things, and I reported her to the manager of the swim school. What happened? And then also Divine Right. Aisha says Divine Right. The more elitist the sport, the more microaggressions our kids experience, like swimming, tennis, golf. He said, and agreed, Aisha. My son was only 7 or 8 at the time. It's already starting. I heard, Professor, you go, there must be something behind that. Share.
I mean, I think that the point that the sister raised about elitist sports, at that top level of visibility, then we're entering into the domain of class and group racial conflict, because the representation means something at that level. It signifies that there is either a changing of the guard or a loss of status. And that's our presence connotes either loss of status. For some people, that's how they interpret it, or it is presumed to be unfair advantage because of natural giftedness rather than hard work. So there's a whole lot of things that happens at that level that we need to be cognizant of, not preoccupied with, but cognizant of when we're interacting with coaches, and to speak very frankly with them, not in an antagonistic way, but we can, like the mother and with the son on the swim team, engage them in conversation, because that's what's necessary. We can't let folks get away with abusing and manipulating our children.
Nice. Hayton says it is important to understand that all athletes start off as a product of the business of sports. And then Ray says, come on screen, be careful. Speaking of black wealth is not a popular conversation, nor is it encouraged among black athletes, and could negatively impact contract negotiations. We have to be cognizant. And then Aisha Sagas says to what Tamari just shared, bingo. Family,
but
you are on
collective, just like the players' associations, collective unions have the ability to now have more power, because those, and like Ray was saying, it might affect contract negotiations if it's 1-to-1 or even a few of them. But when there's a collective mission forward, a collective unit that is whether negotiating on behalf or at least educating a particular group of people, that is difficult. It's more difficult for the owners to affect the negotiations of contracts, because it's not just one person. We have to be able to say, how do we en masse get this information? Because Jaylen Brown now talking about using money to build up the community. If enough other athletes come on board, then it's not going to affect their negotiations, because they can't attack all the black athletes because they're interested. If only 1 or 2, then maybe what he said, or if they join, it'll affect. But it can't be just 1, 2, 3, even 10. He has to curate, I would say, a big group of athletes to understand, like, your negotiations, you have a lot of leverage, use your power, and also build up the community. But people will be scared. Somebody put in the chat about Colin Kaepernick, when you stand up, things typically hit the fan. But if enough people stood up and actually supported him, it wouldn't have gone that way, because the NFL would have shut down if black people decided not to play football anymore.
Okay, let's continue on. Divine Right says here, about continuing with her story, I saw her working more desk duty afterwards. The manager also had training on diversity, inclusion, etc. Not sure if that coach got better, but I told them she's never to work with my son again. Right?
Okay, yes.
And then Aldafina says, I like how you said, quote, collective unions, unquote, Ryan. This is how we address the silos in resources and impact. Tamar, you also want to talk about Black Wall Street.
Yeah, just two quick observations. With this issue with Jaylen Brown, Um, I think we should also be mindful of the history of Black Wall Street. Is he creating a Black Wall Street or recreating? There's a history of prior Wall Streets,
Mhm.
right? Tulsa in particular, and Greenwood and other such places, right? Why did they get destroyed? Part of why they got destroyed were because they were so successful. Because they were successful, we need to be mindful in this day and age that when someone says they're going to create a Black Wall Street, maybe they shouldn't say that publicly, right? There's something about our expectation to see the performance of Blackness that can backfire. So rather than saying he's going to create a Wall Street, simply do it and do it privately and quietly. Never let them see you coming. Right? So we need to be mindful of the requirement or the expectation to see the performance of Blackness.
Ian, I think you. Yeah, I know you. I know you. That's making you think.
It's very valid because you typically, and one of our guests also mentioned this. Oh, I think it was Wayne Harris when he was saying, when we say things, instead of just saying it, just go do it. No, it was Jonathan Shaw, sorry, where as you speak things, take up the mantle and actually do it. But one thing that I would hope him speaking out, because remember the timing, it was after he signed the contract. So I think he felt he was in position to now speak about it because it wouldn't affect his negotiations. But him speaking about it, I'm hoping it was a call out, because maybe it's been difficult to get people on board with the concept. So when you go public now, I'm looking at the other Black athletes to say who else is going to take up this charge and join in. If it would have been more interesting to see behind the scenes, he signed his contract, he starts to curate support, starts to bring people in, and then they just launch Black Wall Street or the recreation of Black Wall Street. That I would agree that would have been a lot more impactful, and I feel would be easier to do because now he has the spotlight right on him, and we don't know what kind of adverse effects are going to come from this now. But if we use history, history does not paint a pretty picture about how, especially Americans, white Americans, react to when Black people start to curate power. So, you don't want to think we're in that same type of mind frame and like where the world is, but it's something you have to think about, and I think that's valid. You're right.
One of the, and I'll just build on what both of you said. Keep it short and sweet. That someone who was very wise told me a long time ago, Dr. Vibe, don't tell people what you're doing. Do it and let them talk.
Mm-hmm.
Do it and let them talk. Aisha Stagger says here with her comment, also, sports has a legacy of valuing white dollars over Black dollars. And Sophia Jacob from Ottawa says, once they see our brilliance and how we work and come together, it irritates those who don't want to see our people shine and be truly liberated.
Can I make a comment on that point?
Absolutely.
On that point, Jack Johnson, for example, the great boxer, people, the history of him has been misrepresented. And people like imagine him through the eyes of white envy rather than as a man, irrespective of the fact that he married white women, his contribution to the Black communities in the United States in terms of investment, right? Subsidizing employment and businesses is profound. That piece of the history gets literally swept away because how he is imagined is through the white lens, rather than looking at this man who moved in often low-key way to support Black communities throughout the United States. He gave a lot of his wealth back to the community.
And that's a part of his story that I've never heard. So you mentioning that is like 100% on point, because you only hear about the story that they want you to hear. And it's through their lens and their perspective. So yeah, definitely gonna go do some more research on the impact that he had, because you only hear about that other side.
Yeah,
Well,
Gerald
again,
Horn has a book on him. It's really insightful.
Excellent.
there you go, and that's one of the reasons we also have to realize the role of media. Hello,
Yes, and
in all
controlling our
this,
narrative. Yes.
controlling our narrative in this. Now, another great example I mentioned today is again the 60-year anniversary of Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, I think, or March on Washington, and he spoke. And I was listening to a report on a station that he was only supposed to talk for about 13 minutes. He talked,
Mm.
and it's funny. And I through this report I was listening to, he was saying all this nice stuff, and people may not know this name, but one of the great gospel singers of all time, Mahalia Jackson, said, "Martin,
Hmm.
talk real,
Mm.
talk real." And again, as we're saying here, a lot of the portrayal of Martin Luther King was this nice, but he had another side, especially as he was going on in life. He realized that, hey, some of the stuff I was saying, I'm beginning to question if that's reality.
Mhm.
So,
So,
what? Go ahead.
oh, sorry. Somebody had mentioned, remember the Williams sisters. Something that I would love to put out there, and if we look at the Williams sisters and their rise, something that I would say that they missed an opportunity with, and I'll also put Tiger Woods into this camp as well, creating their own tournament. The Williams sisters, if they created the Williams Open, they would have had a following. Tiger Woods, if he created Tiger Woods Invitational, now you're creating a system to compete. But this is where we leave the bigger system building to the white community instead of building our own. Look at is it LeVar Ball wanted to
The
create his
Marble.
own basketball league. Ice Cube has created a league.
Yes, and he's had some pushback with that from.
But it's there and you can now rally around it. I would call out to the Williams sisters, put together your own tournament.
Ryan Knight is calling out the Williams
Serena
sisters.
is an investor. Venus is an investor.
Yes, they do invest in a lot of things. I think one of them or both of them have a percentage ownership of the Miami Dolphins.
I want to see the Williams Open. King Richard, okay. I'll call it out to him. You can, yes.
Okay.
Mention that to the sisters.
Lorraine says, we've got it here. Is it coming? Yes. To Tamari's point, I must say that it's so hard to reconcile the truth of a problem speaker who delivers a beautiful pro-black speech and then walks off the podium and sits beside a white spouse. That really throws me off. Should it? Dr. Tamari, what's your response to that comment?
Given that I have a white spouse, I don't have a comment.
All right. There we go. All right. And Lorraine then asks, okay, it's come on. Not a problem speaker, profound speaker. Also, the Macmillan Group, others who have moved in a similar way and took significant risks to support the Black agenda. Others such as both Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte and Aretha Franklin, who gave significant support to funding the civil rights.
Can I add something on that point?
Oh,
sure.
Yes.
If we think about the Black Action Defense Committee in Toronto,
yes, Toronto,
right? A lot of Black, middle class, often conservative people staunchly supported Dudley Laws and supported him behind the scenes. And I raise the point once again in terms of the performance of Blackness, that once we get down into that road of conversation, then we're getting into distraction.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. This is the conversation is cooking. Conversation's cooking on the morning vibe. Even when we have technical challenges, we bring heat.
We make it happen.
We make it happen. We make it happen. Oh, another comment has just popped into the queue, which is no surprise. Aisha says, if MLK wasn't a radical, he wouldn't have been assassinated. People forget how hated he was in his time. Good point. Good point.
But does that also tie into what you're saying, Tamari, with now the narrative that we get about Martin Luther King Jr. doesn't tell the full story? And it's now, because if he was a radical and hated at the time, how has he now become like the personification of the Black struggle as white people tell the story, not even how Black people tell the story. Like the way that he's portrayed is as like a savior and, you know, the leader of the Black cause. But is that the true story that we should be telling each other, understanding about the full work that he's done?
That's a beautiful observation, and I think that's where we are required, particularly as parents, right, to help to recraft the narrative for the range and the possibilities for what Blackness looks like. Martin Luther King talked about something that he called the radical center. And so we often think about people like Larry Elders and others of his ilk as though they're conservative, and by virtue of being conservative and Black is a contradiction in terms. It is not, right? This is where I think, again, looking at MLK, through the perspective of the point raised, which is that at the time that he was making his case, he was despised. But also at the same time, let's understand that there's a radical nature to the Black masses that pushed him forward. He could not have done it had he not gotten pressure from the rank and file. So there's a complex way in which we need to recraft the narrative. And if we're getting a narrative here and now, right, one way to launder your mind is to keep reading and reading and reading and reading back. And that's why I raised the issue of Black Wall Street. The moment that we say that there's going to be a creation, no, it's a recreation. And then the question is, in what ways and how can we use that to transform our local communities to ensure that our communities get the quality of support that they need, often against government in the state. And this is where the conservatives come in. Conservatives are saying, listen, when you get government assistance, you're being trapped into slavery. And that's Larry Elders' point. And he's not wrong on that point, right? And the conversation around Black athletes and supporting the Black community comes back to that issue as well. And I think one of the folks writing in was saying that we can't always rely on Black athletes to do that, right? So we have 75 to 85% of all small businesses. That's what drives the economy. Then we know that at the small local level, that's where the wealth is being generated and created. And that's where folks like you at the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, that's where you come in, right, to help people navigate the challenges of building wealth on a small scale local level so that it gets to be intergenerational. And that the big athletes up there, that becomes symbolic representation, but it's not real for most of us.
And you mentioned what Larry Elder mentioned about women marrying the state. That stuck with me. And it reminded me because as we do a lot of entrepreneurship programming, when we started to work with those on government assistance, that was the most pushback I've ever gotten from the province about ODSP and the Ontario Disability. Like those supports that people get, as soon as they started to talk about starting a business, they would get clamped down, money clawed back. It was a real fight. And I feel like it's slowly, we're trying to still deal with it. But man, I've never had that kind of pushback against entrepreneurship that I've seen, more so than the province of the Ontario province.
Can I put a little spin on that?
Keep on going.
The little spin is that conservatives like Larry Elder missed the point. But it's not Black women marrying the state, it's the state destroying Black men. There is no community that advances where the males are being destroyed. You cannot destroy community without destroying the males. And feminists have it all wrong, and that's part of the technocratic agenda of feminism, is to lead us to believe that if women are liberated, communities are liberated. No. You can only liberate a community by ensuring that the males in those communities are strong and that they have their agenda put together, which is why there's so much of popular culture and media which is fixated on damaging and destroying the images of Black boys and men.
Excellent conversation going on here. Christopher Lawrence says, Greetings. Yes, you have landed. You've missed an epic conversation, Christopher. You're gonna have to watch the replay. Jabari Lindsay again is here. Thank you. He wants you, Tamari, to expand on the performance of blackness. Would love to hear Tamari expand on that. You know you're coming back after all of this. You know that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Can you?
This
you
was
want
the
to expand
teaser.
on the? Yeah, this is the appetizer. You want to expand on the performance of blackness, sir?
I'll bring it back to some of the episodes that you've done on Black allies, where you have a broad range of participants in the conversation, and they're coming from different viewpoints and perspectives, right? That's the Black perspective. It's multiple. The idea that there is one narrative, one story, where does that idea come from? Again, who's projecting that narrative into the public domain? So when we recognize that we have unity in our differences and our diversity, that's where we get to go beyond this notion that there is a type of Black perspective. And then we end up getting into arguments around who is Black, what constitutes Black, rather than accepting that Black is the rainbow. And that's my perspective on that. And that means that someone like me, who has a white spouse, doesn't get removed from conversations, or I would absent myself from conversations because I know I'll be disqualified by virtue of who I'm sharing a pillow with. So that's someone's perspective of Blackness, and I choose not to share it. But the consequence is that people like me take a step back and we mind our own business.
Right. But then we lose out on that perspective.
That's the point.
Right.
Everyone has something to offer. Everyone brings value to the table. We all have a lot of lived experiences that will make the end product golden. Just my thought. Ryan?
Well, as I'm learning more about, I would say, the formation of Africa and how the continent operated, wasn't as one cohesive unit. It was multiple tribes, but there was like the leaders of each tribe coordinating and working together. From what I'm now learning and reading, it's the Europeans that come in and create, now calling Africa all one continent and taking away our individuality and our ability to coordinate together. And this is something I also wanted to ask you, Tamari, around how do we now purposefully understand those differences and then coordinate better as a community? Because do we need like that overarching term Blackness so that we understand we're all fighting the same fight? Or do we lean into like the individual, let's say, hey, Caribbeans, each island, Africa, each country, and then just understand those differences and coordinate? I feel like I'm asking the question wrong, but I was curious to see your thoughts on the full Black, we're all just one, or do we understand that we're all individual and now we need to coordinate better?
I take the perspective that it's a bit of all of that, right? Because it's always a process of creation, right? Everything is being created as we go along, but in order to create for the future, we have to look in the rearview mirror. And part of that means thinking about the fact that Blackness in Africa, that's an invention of Europe, because Europe needed to invent Africa and Blackness. Because Europe was invented by the Catholic Church in roughly the 12th century. There was no such thing as Europe.
Okay.
Right? The Renaissance, there's no such thing as a Renaissance. There's no rebirth of anything. Because the same Anglo-Nordics that we're talking about the Renaissance, if they were in Greece and Rome, they would have been enslaved. Right? The Mediterraneans did not like those people from the north. They saw them as frigid, stupid, and that's why they enslaved them. Right? So the Gauls in Rome, they were seen as savages. But now the Gauls talk about our forefathers in Rome and Greece. No, there's no such thing. So once we begin to comprehend that all of us are creating and recreating reality as we live it, we must divest ourselves of these mythologies of the past, right? and recognize that there are mythologies, Europe is an invention just as much as Africa is an invention. And so what is it now that we're trying to create in the immediate moment in which we're in? Right? Those to me are the most important questions that help us to look in that rear view mirror, so then we're not reproducing or chasing ghosts that never existed.
Right.
All right. Let's catch up on some more comments here. Aisha says, I was young, but there was a concerted effort to make MLK benign and palatable to white people in the conservative 80s to get the holiday passed. They believe they needed a nearly unanimous vote. Christopher makes a good point. Sounds like I'm going to have to listen to the replay with lots of popcorn at hand. Yes. Sophia says, yes, moving in silence is preferred. As soon as they start to see your plan, the gossip, scandals, fights, lies, and rumors start. That's how they fight us now, and that's only because they can't redo Tulsa. Jabari goes, got it. Performance of blackness is the concept. We are not a monolith. There you go. Your question was answered. Oh, Aisha goes, I disagree with Tamari on his last point. The liberation of black women is saving America right now.
It's not. Where's the evidence?
Okay, you know what?
Where's the empirical evidence?
Okay.
In 1920, W.E.B. Du Bois wrote an essay called The Damnation of Woman. And what he pointed out in that essay, in 3 to 4 sentences, he said at the time the income difference between black women and white women was nil. If you look statistically today, Canada, the UK, the United States, the income difference between black women and white women is statistically nil. Du Bois pointed out also in the same essay, in the next sentence, that the income difference between black men and white men is like 50 to 75%. So when you look at the income difference in Canada between black men and white men, it verges around 25 to 35% income difference. Then the income difference between males is greater than the income difference between females. Without the income from the males, because it is the males that are being attacked, you cannot build intergenerational wealth. So then the question becomes, provide the empirical evidence to support the narrative. If it is that black women are saving America, how many black men are in prison, dead, living on the street? So where's the evidence?
Okay. Aisha goes, I've written several articles on, quote, blackness, unquote, and to Ryan's point, the definition varies across the globe, but also across generations. Lorraine, one of our favorite golfers, Lorraine says, I agree that the liberation of black women is saving our generation. Aisha Staggers goes, and blackness is constantly being created and recreated as our circumstances change. Something tells me there may be a show coming where we have to get Tamari and Aisha and or Lorraine on talking about this concept about are black women saving our generation? Because I see there's some differing thoughts on that, but I'll just put it out there that if I may reach out to them individually and say, hey, would you like to come on and have that conversation? A respectful conversation about that, by the way. Not what I see a lot of times on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, you know what? I think, hold on. Okay, Lorraine has come back saying black homes are driven by black women, white homes are driven by white men. Sophia says, Aisha, I agree with you and Lorraine. So the black women are disagreeing with you, Tamari.
Well, so here's the point. Look up the income difference between those families and whether males are present in those black families that are being saved by black women.
Okay, and there's already some of the families already speaking, saying, I see a show topic, the liberation of black women is saving America.
But should the title more so be that at the beginning? Yes. Is the liberation of black women saving America?
Okay.
Or I'll say Canada as well, yeah.
Okay, Aldefino says one who's engaged with the pestle does not begrudge the martyr. Maybe we need to remember in a spiritual lens that our cultures and functions were results driven. Many great nations were matriarchal, just as some were patriarchal. We need to stop comparing or valuing according to Western standards. Human resources that are generally thriving in parts of Africa today comes from natural order and respect for individual functions. Okay, Sophia, point. So what if the home has a single mom?
And that is the point. How
I
do you
think
build
that is the point.
generational wealth with one parent?
Okay.
But that's where, like, I feel, Tamara, you're talking about how did that household become a single parent? Like, there's factors attacking Black men that now cause the current situations that we have. So it's not an attack on women and how they've been supporting their families. It's now to say, why does that struggle have to be so strong for Black women? What is happening to our Black men, and what system is like attacking us that is causing this issue? And you can definitely correct me if I'm misstating that.
No,
we're not going to go too much long because we could wait for the rest of the morning on this one. But it looks like we highly have at least one or two upcoming conversation piece. But go ahead, Tamari.
Yeah, I think Ryan is on point there, that this is not a debasement of women. And typically the problem with feminism is that's what it does. It constructs any critique of the feminist narrative as an attack on women. I've not attacked women in anything that I've said thus far. But what I would want to suggest for that next conversation is that we define what patriarchy is. My definition of patriarchy is that the domination of the subordinate males in the outgroup by the females and the males of the dominant group. Males and females are always interdependent. They're not oppositional. Feminism gives us the narrative, because it's a part of a technocratic project of managing the social order, to eliminate the males from the subordinate families. And we come back to Larry Elders, right? It's not that Black women are marrying the state. It's that Black men are being destroyed by the state. And who manages the state? Who does the state serve? This is where conservatives fall down. They typically see the state as a problem, except when it serves them.
There you go. All right. Aisha goes, come on. I am well aware Dubois. I went to Fisk. He also wrote another essay in Fisk's special collections that discusses the political power of Black women. Mm-hmm. She also says, the plight of Black men isn't necessarily the fault of Black women. Lorraine says, then it is missing a protector, not a driver. Aldefino says, a mortar and pestle work together to get the job done at the end of the day. Excuse me. Black women can also create generational wealth, as Sophia says. And then we have Aldefino says, one never uses the grinding stone and the bowl without getting the results intended. And then Aisha says that Black women in America are on poise to outlearn Black men. The empirical evidence is there.
That's not a dispute. That's not my point.
Yeah, because each of those points, and sorry, Tamara, it just struck me as those are all true. But if there were strong Black men added to that, we would then be able to create generational wealth faster.
Yeah.
If it's all relying on strong Black women that are out earning Black men and running their households on their own, that is a much harder fight than if there was a system also supporting Black men so that we can be with you to build together. Like, am I getting those points are all just adding to exactly what I feel you're saying, Tamari, is that Black men are being cast to the side and destroyed in a sense, and not there with the Black women to grow together.
That is my point. And I'm, again, relying on W.E.B. Du Bois to make that point, and he wrote that essay in 1920. So if we jump forward to the Moynihan Report, what the Moynihan Report pointed out, and a lot of people don't want to talk about this, is that statistically, empirically, Moynihan pointed out that Black women were doing better than Black men in education and employment, right? Look
Okay.
at the statistical data in terms of intergenerational wealth. When you absent the male from those families, like someone made the point that white families are driven by the income of white men, Black families are driven by the income of Black women. Look at the marriage rates or the rates of spousal togetherness. It's vastly different, right? So Black women tend not to have a complementary male in the household, particularly if they're upwardly mobile and high income. Not so the case with white families. And so we end up getting distracted with the narratives put, like the stumbling block of the narratives put in front of us by feminism. And feminism, again, is a technocratic project to maintain capitalism and white supremacy. White people benefit from it because the project of feminism is to destroy males, particularly in subordinate racial outgroups. That's its objective. And when you look at affirmative action and employment equity, the chief beneficiaries have been who? White women. It's a project to build a white middle class family. So when we get locked into conversations about Black man this, Black woman that, we're missing the point. Black men and Black women are complementary, regardless of who they're married to. My aunts, my mothers, my sisters, my cousins, they're all Black women. That's who I relate to, right? So there's no opposition between me and them. So who this opposing Black men and Black women are, I don't know. But I don't know who this abstract Black woman is. I can only tell you about the Black women in my life that I work with to support and help to build up, and vice versa.
Okay, I'm going to just give the last set of comments. We're going to be done because there's so many ideas going on in my head about conversations. So let's just start closing it down here. So Lorraine says this. There's a financial gap with income of men. There is also a problem. Males and females working in tandem do bring about an optimal environment, just as the human race is best if all races work together.
Mm-hmm.
Aisha says this. Ray says, Aisha, we need to stop that narrative. While it may be true, it's not the solution to creating Black generational wealth. The Black family is. And I know it. I was raised by a Black divorced single mother. Aisha says, Black women are not feminists. We are women, Tamari. The tradition of Harriet Tubman, and there is a fundamental and theoretical difference between the two. Aldafina says, Ryan, I believe it's less about speed and more about sustainability and legacy. Shirley J. of the Black Canadian Content Creators. Hold on. Let me get her comment. There we go. You are correct, Ryan. Stronger together. Sophia says, anyway, we hold down the jobs, are willing to return to school to upskill in education, and are powerhouses when it comes to entrepreneurship, creating the path for our families. Yes, we run things. I guess she's saying about Black women. Christopher says this. I see what we're talking about now. Interesting conversation. I'd like for this to be an ongoing conversation piece if possible. Oh, don't worry, it will be. In a nice, respectful way, by the way. I says, I don't begrudge that, Ryan. However, that isn't how it was communicated, which is why the women are the kind of side eye eyeing that position. Ray says, Professor, that is a very important bit of information you shared, and it is time Black women stop falling for that okie dokie. Lorraine says, Black women drive homes forward with love and visionary. Black people are visionaries. White people are capitalists. Money moves them. They design their system for the men to be the rulers, so they earn more. Our homes need protectors. We have enemies that used to come to our homes and take us. Whites never had that. Aldafina. Tamari, I love your point about the abstract versus natural order. Good. Hey, Donna Harrow, how you doing? I think we're being distracted by the modern narrative. The point you just made is what I started to comment, and don't be distracted. Aisha goes, as a former professor of research and stats, I studied the Moynihan report, and there are methodological issues with how the data was collected and analyzed. And last comment goes to Aisha also. Black women do not align with feminists. We align with womanism, which is a whole different thing. Family,
All right.
we done. Dr. Tamari, I'm glad you came on. I hope you are.
Oh man, I've learned a lot. This
Like,
is an amazing conversation.
yeah. First of all, thank you for what you have done, are doing, will be doing, and also most importantly, thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate being here.
Well, you know what? Even when we don't see you, you add positive value.
The value, yes.
I won't. Okay, he will be back. He will be back. He will be back. Absolutely. Doctor, is there anything we need to know? Any things you're working on that the audience would need to get informed about?
Maybe for our next conversation, I'm doing a follow-up to my book, Appealing Because He's Appalling, Black Masculinities, Colonialism, and Erotic Racism, where I'm actually doing empirical research now with
Yes.
not only Black men, but also with Black women and their intimate others to figure out how we navigate and comprehend these sexual stereotypes about Black men, because these tropes about the rapist, the hypersexual, the priapism, these are representations that precede us. So, for example, when I walk into my classrooms at my university, those representations come before me, and students literally see me through that lens of those tropes. And so, how do we navigate that? And how I'm trying to figure out how families navigate that in terms of how Black women would protect their sons from racial stereotypes, the Black rapists, so on and so forth. So it's really a coherent, community-based, family-based project.
Wonderful. Do you want to share any contact information, like your email address, or we do that for next time?
Well, yes, I can be reached at tikatosa@brocku.ca.
Actually, you don't. I just wanted to get your permission because there we go.
And also my website is the Professor's Corner. Professor's Corner.
Okay. Well, we'll do email first. Next time we'll have all the deets.
Yeah, professorscorner.com or .ca?
.ca.
All right.
Okay. There's his contact information, family. I like to ask people first. I just don't put it up there. So that is all good. That's another reason why you got to follow me, because he's going to be back soon. As soon as we get this camera issue figured out, he's going to be on. And even, you know what? I don't even care if he doesn't have his camera. I'm speaking that him and Ray are going to join us on monthly conversations on Dr. Vibe's Allies too. So,
nice.
So yeah, I want to have just a huge conversation of life through the lens of Black men from all over the place. And like I said, it's one of the few conversations that's done on a regular basis with Black men from at least 3 different countries and 2 continents. So, Dr. Tamari, I want you to hang on after we finish. I'm going to pull you backstage, but I want to say thank you and hope you had a good time today.
I learned a tremendous amount, so I want to thank you, both Ryan and you, Dr. Vibe, for having me on. And to the audience, I learned quite a bit. Thank you.
Absolutely. This is it. We learn together. When we work together, we win together. We may not always agree, but we're going to respect each other and grow. So thank you very much, Doctor. All right. So, sir, that was beautiful.
Yes. And it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had.
No, conversations. It's not
absolutely
one.
we are on the same team. We have to actually find out who the true enemy is and destroy that. It is definitely not us. And Tamari said it. Whatever this thing is that is holding us down, we have to figure it out. But I'm looking forward to these conversations.
Yes. Well, as I said, I love today's conversation. There's so many things. We're going to have Aisha on in the near future. Dr. Tamari is going to be Reg. So family, subscribe. If you like what you heard and soon about to see, we're going to rock with this. We're going to rock with this. So a few other things at the bottom, you can see where you can watch replays of the Morning Vibe on YouTube, the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook and YouTube. Also, Afro-Caribbean Business Network, Facebook and YouTube, and Ryan O'Neill Knight, YouTube and LinkedIn. Some other things we want to say, as always, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and on YouTube. Hit the notification button so you get notified of upcoming conversations like coming up this. Go ahead. And YouTube.
Thank you for being here live. But before you go, make sure to hit the like button. We appreciate you.
Yes, we appreciate you back. Yes. So on YouTube, subscribe. There you go. A notification. It helps that thing to call algorithm. Also, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on LinkedIn and Instagram. And also, like whatever Ryan's doing. Follow him on his social media platforms too.
Thank you.
All right. Actually, you got to give me where we can get a hold of you. So you got to create something, and we're going to start flashing that too.
All right.
To advertise on your business or service on the show, please email me at dr.vibe@thedrbeshow.com. Join the Morning Vibe Discord group, where I'm going to put this replay link on there because people need to watch this one. This was Faya, Monday Faya. Coming up on this Friday's show, Wayne Harris is back. Financial First Fridays. Wayne is always dropping knowledge bombs. Let's see if we have any final comments. Okay, you're saying, can you write in the chat the Dear Professor's website? Okay, hold on. Seems there's demand here. All right, let me see if we can do it here fast. You asked Christopher, so let's see if we can make this happen real quick.
As you do that, I apologize. I do have to.
You got to go. Yes, I know you got to make a move. We'll see you. We'll chat during the week.
Yes.
We take care. All right. So let me just see if I can find the information to the website. Now, that's his personal website. Okay, Christopher, reach out to me on the back channel, or I'll send it to you some way, somehow. Let me just put it that way. I just got. Okay, so let me just do this. Put this off. Ray says, great conversation, and the lack of video perhaps remove visual distraction and the bias it creates. Interesting you say that, Ray. For one of the things I do in my journey is I'm a trainer for a life coaching school, and we do all our calls via Zoom. I'm not a big Zoom fan, but the video is turned off. And the gentlemen who run the school say the reason why they do that is research shows that the video pictures cause distractions. So people had to focus in on what Tamari was saying today. So maybe that you got a great point there. And Aldefina finishes off. This was such a refreshing start to the week. I love being challenged in such a dynamic spaces. I love that. Being challenged in dynamic spaces. I love that. All right. We're done, family. So Friday, we have Wayne Harris. But during the week, I have a number of conversations. I'm hosting a conversation tomorrow night, organization called Building a Black Archive, talking about archiving Black history in the Toronto area, I think, if not North America. Thursday evening, we have Dr. Vibe's allies, Black men from Canada, the United States, and England, and hopefully some new participants, Tamari and Ray McMillan. Talk about whatever's on their mind and in their heart. And then Friday morning, we have Wayne Harris, Financial First Fridays. So as always, we finish off like this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Have a fantastic week and watch replays, share the word, like, share, and we will see you on the digital highway. Keep the faith.